if people's perception of nuclear warfare is based on movies, much like and I mean this not to be a dick, but a liberal's perception of guns is also based on movies.
Yes.
Then they don't actually know, or they can't actually predict reasonably what would happen in say, nuclear war or in a gunfight.
Would explain away food production losses in the Ukraine too. Like you could taking a grain basket offline indefinitely for 100 years would be the masking cover.
Yep.
For crop production declines globally, and why the reason there's not enough food, and why the reason we need to go to digital rationing cards, and why these terms are thrown around as equity and equality. If you're going to take away,
that's massive.
Yeah, well, what if the global food production declines are on a natural cycle forecastable, but they need all these other layers of the climate manipulation, the weather modification, the nuclear war, all these areas focused on bread baskets, because that wouldn't be as spooky to the planet as, by the way, we're going to continue to amplify, and these yields are going to get lower and lower and lower as we go through the rest of this cycle. Now, please just grow your own food at home. Don't rely on the traditional supply chains. Cross your fingers, but obey the rule of law. Pay your taxes and keep working.
So we've seen
That's not going to happen.
We've seen farmers in the Netherlands being made to stop farming.
Right.
And this is crazy because we're talking about food prices going up. Why is this happening? You make a really interesting point in, let's just call it potentiality. I don't want to call it conspiracy theory because nuclear war is a potential. Russia uses low-yield tactical nuclear artillery in the eastern region of Ukraine because they want to create a barrier to stop. So the reasoning is, whatever, stop the Ukrainian push into Kursk or whatever. This contaminates the breadbasket of Europe, Ukraine, cutting out 20 to 30% of food production, which is already likely happening. This affects Western Ukraine and the economy, straining Ukraine. Europe is now in a food shortage. The U.S. must provide relief. Food costs go through the roof. Food stores and food stockpiles in stores are down. The U.S. says it's because of Russia's aggression and the attacks and the use of nuclear weapons. The U.S. then implements food cards or an app you have to use to track your purchases. And not in the name of climate change, but in the name of, hey, look, you know the war is happening. You know the food shortages are real. It's no one's fault. Don't blame us.
And they're going to look for a new grow zone to set up immediately because out of necessity, if we're going to lose 20 to 30% of global crop yields, they're going to instantly look for a play to go back in. And if they could set up North Africa and the Sahel to do that, that gives a second excuse for that layer of we have to go there now.
You know, I'd say
we got to save people, Tim.
That's how you usher in Agenda 2030.
That's
right, isn't it?
Sir, 5 years ago, I would have said, sir, you're a madman.
Yeah.
And they locked the country down for 2 years and forced people to get medicated and a bunch of other things. So without diving into that whole can of worms, because now we've gone from weather to war and all this stuff.
But it all mixes.
Well,
It
no,
does.
that's a great point.
My point is just the possibility of governments exploiting conflict and crisis to implement massive global change to their benefit is 100% it happens.
How many times have we heard politicians are going to take advantage of a bad situation?
Right. Never let them
love
go
this.
to waste.
Yeah, so if they have this data, like you've been saying, like these people know what's going on, like these earth changes are coming. I mean, that could be a good reason of why all this stuff's taking place. These wars, like, you know, there's all sorts of reasons for war.
Well, what's their stated kind of agenda? I mean, it's not really a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, are you talking about like the UN?
Global elite.
Like the Agenda
vaguely.
2030?
It's population reduction.
Well, let's
Right?
clarify.
And we have talked about that exactly. You just kind of did a show that we did like maybe a year ago with the Ukraine thing. We talked about that. That's 30% of Europe's grain and stuff gone. And not only that, they don't even have to pop a nuke. All they have to do is have a problem with one of those power stations like Chernobyl that happens to be right there in that region as well.
What's Zaporizhia? I don't believe that there's one global elite, though.
No,
I think
totally.
we often refer to the liberal economic order, which is Western powers, NATO, the United States, and created after World War II in the 50s. It's fascinating because these are the kind of conversations they'd call you a conspiracy theorist for bringing up. But now on the CFR website, they outright say, like, yes, we formed an international group called the Liberal Economic Order to ensure that World War III would not happen again. And we do these things. They created structures like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the SWIFT payment system to be able to control the economies of other nations. And when certain nations run afoul of that plan, and this is all on their website, this is the CFR. I mean, then you end up with, heavens me, Gaddafi got overthrown and killed with the assistance of NATO, and Saddam Hussein was found underground. Like, people who go against these the wishes of these groups tend to find themselves in hot water, to say the least. But there is also Putin, Xi Jinping, the BRICS nations that are other global elites that are at odds. I don't believe they're unified. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.